Once you have gone through the process of creating an animation, in order to create a self-contained file that lives outside of After Effects, you need to render. And in this tutorial, we're going to render using the render queue. Now, it's always a good idea to watch down your project one more time before you render. So go to the timeline and click once in the timeline panel to make it active. Then press the spacebar and watch your project. This is exactly what I want. So I will press the spacebar to stop playback. In order to render this to the render queue, since I already have the timeline of the composition I would like to render active, all I have to do is go up under the composition menu and choose Add to Render Queue. Before we dive into a bunch of different settings, let me just show you the simplest workflow. For rendering a high-resolution video file out of the render queue, under the render settings, I will just click on the drop-down arrow and choose Best Settings. Under the output module, click on the drop-down arrow and make sure Lossless is chosen. Then on the right over here under Output 2, click on the blue text. And that will open up a window where you can specify where you would like to render your project. I'm going to render mine right next to my project files. And under file name, I will call this Happy Lion. On Windows, this is going to render as an AVI. If you're on the Mac, it will render as a QuickTime movie. Go ahead and click Save, and at that point, all you have to do is click Render to actually render your full resolution output. Now, let me show you some of the key settings that you might want to change if you need to. Whenever you create renderer with the render queue, under the render settings, go over the word best settings and click on it to open the render setting. If you want to render a video file that's a little smaller than full res, click on the resolution drop down and choose half or third. And the video file will only be one half or a third the size. It will still be the full resolution, and it will just be smaller pixel dimensions. I will change my resolution back to full. Then here on the right, underneath frame rate, there's an option where you can specify the start frame or the end frame. So if you click the button, you can specify the only render. Say 1 second of your animation. I'll click cancel. Let's go to the lossless area. click on the word loose list. And this is where you can specify the format. So by default on Windows it will be AVI, on the Mac it will be QuickTime. But if you click on the drop down, you could render a JPEG sequence or a PNG sequence. JPEG and PNG are just compressed still image files. So what's interesting about these sequences is if you had audio, the audio wouldn't go with it. This would just render the video aspect of things. That's why most of the frame people will render to QuickTime or AVI. If they want a self-contained video file, I will click outside of that panel and choose the format options. Down here at the bottom, this is where you can specify the audio settings. But I find the default typically work perfectly well. And I will just click cancel out here. So to render your project, let's go over and just press the render button. Once the render is complete, I'll just navigate to my file browser, and sure enough, there's my Happy Lion video file. And to watch it back, I just double click and it will load up in your video player. And there you have it. Render with the render cube.